Have you ever read a line of poetry that's stuck with you long after you put it down? If not, you might find yourself in that position today. This is Louis Gluck's short, ambiguous, and haunting poem, All Hallows. Even now this landscape is assembling. The hills darken, the oxen sleep in their blue yoke, the fields having been picked clean, the sheaves bound evenly and piled at the roadside among cinquefoil as the toothed moon rises. This is the barrenness of harvest or pestilence, and the wife leaning out the window with her hand extended as in payment, and the seeds distinct gold, calling, come here, little one," and the soul creeps out of the tree. It's quite a poem, isn't it? So it's a tough one to unpack. Like I said, it's really ambiguous, but it's from a Pulitzer Prize winning poet who's done some amazing work, and she's kind of known for this style. And even though it's confusing, doesn't mean you can't get anything out of it. So let's take some time to go through some steps and try and do that. First off, you've got to know what all the words mean. So I put up a couple words that might be confusing to you or you might need to look up. And I want to focus mostly on that third phrase, toothed moon, because despite my best efforts, I could not find much info on toothed moon. And you'll find that sometimes in poetry. Sometimes the poet came up with the image all on their own, and it's the first time it was used. And that's awesome. Good job. But it doesn't necessarily give you a lead to go off of. So I'm not sure what toothed moon means, but I know that it's creepy. It's got this like Majora's Mask vibe going on in my brain when I read it, and it has this connection to hunger. And you can see that throughout the poem, right? Our poem opens with a harvest. The field has been picked over, the oxen are at rest, everything's bound and put together. This is a poem that takes place in mid to late fall, as we'll talk about later. So the idea of the moon being hungry is a great image. It's also a creepy one. The other thing I'd want to look at with you real quick is from our second stanza, and it's the idea of harvest or pestilence. So these are opposite ideas. Harvest gives us the impression of plenty, whereas pestilence is like a disease that destroys. But what Gluck has pointed out here so, I think, geniusly is that there's a connection between them. They both leave the land barren. Whether it's a harvest or a disease, a pestilence, the land is picked clean and empty. And that image carries through to the ending, the very confusing part of the poem, but I think the part that really sticks with you. So let's get to that, shall we? Okay, before we get to the end, though, we have to look at the title. All Hallows is an actual holiday. It's November 1st. It's right between Halloween on October 31st and All Saints' Day on November 2nd. Halloween was originally called All Hallows' Eve, the evening before All Hallows' Day. And we've kind of lost All Hallows and All Saints' Day in the United States. People sometimes know about it, it's on calendars, but we don't necessarily do much on it in general. Some people do for sure, but it's not a really recognized holiday anymore. But it used to be. It used to be an incredibly important one. And Halloween sort of gets its spooky atmosphere from All Hallows' Day, which was a day when you believed, or some people believed, that the souls of the dead would roam about the earth. And All Saints' Day, the day after, was the day when you would celebrate the dead. You would maybe decorate their grave or bring flowers to it, or just think or pray for those individuals who have passed on. So that title is crucial to getting any foothold in this poem at the end of it. So let's finally talk about the ending here. So though ambiguous, the ending line, "and the soul creeps out of the tree," kind of whips the reader right back to that title, because we know we're talking about a time when people believed that the soul would leave the grave or leave wherever it was and roam. And this is sort of a mixed metaphor, this soul creeping out of the tree and the seeds in the wife's hand as she leans out the window. But what they represent is life's journey, right? Seed beginning of life and soul, end of life. And there's been a lot of debate as to what exactly this poem is talking about at the end. It's very grammatically ambiguous and confusing. For instance, we don't know if the calling, come here, little one, is from the wife or from the seeds. We don't know if the little one is a child or if it represents nature because it's been picked over and destroyed in the harvest. But I think it's safe to say that there's a family and domestic idea here. It's a wife, so it's a married woman, and she's holding seeds which represent birth, and they're important seeds, right? We're told they're golden, so they have some significance. And little one certainly seems to be a phrase you would use toward a child, and that might be as far as we can hold it. Is this a child who is passed on, and that's why the soul creeps out of the tree? Is the wife perhaps barren? She can't have more children? There's really no way to know exactly, but it's an incredibly atmospheric poem, and it's also incredibly okay that we don't know. Sometimes that's what poets do. They let us play around in the mystery and take some ownership as readers, and I encourage you to do that. Whatever you think of the poem, though, I hope you enjoyed it and can see how words, even kind of everyday common words for the most part, can really capture a mood and an atmosphere so well when in the hand of a careful poet. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Really appreciate you liking or subscribing if this is this sort of content that you are interested in. I put some links to some other videos here for you can see. And my end goal in this whole YouTube thing is to really start discussions about these poems. And I've had some people give me feedback and tell me what their thoughts on the poems were. And I think that is so awesome. And as a teacher of these poems, it is incredibly useful for me to hear what the internet community has to say about them. So please, if you have any questions or comments or theories or suggestions for future videos, leave them in the comments. Again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening.